Well, hello. First video after a long winter's nap, so to speak. I'm doing this video here tonight because I've had numerous requests for several different small items. People basically send me personal messages on YouTube and ask me this sort of repetitive questions, and I thought I'd do a quick video tonight to cover off a few different subject matters. First and foremost, I've had a couple comments or questions, and they weren't rude about it, but the posters or the senders of these messages asked if I received money or any kind of sponsorship from anybody. And I thought that was pertinent at the time because recently I bought a Festool saw for carpentry work that I do. I do my own work here at the house. And as you can see, this very, very messy garage. We're in the midst of doing a lot of work in this house over the winter. And when summertime comes, I hope to ride more. But I bought this Festool saw, and the reviews online for this saw, although it's very expensive, were phenomenal. However, there were countless YouTube videos by people who were actually sponsored by Festool, and they compared Festool against other brands. And to me, that's conflict of interest, or at the very least, if you're openly, I guess to be fair to them, they openly stated they were sponsored by Festool, but because they were sponsored by that company and they're comparing that company's product to some other product, it's pretty hard to take that as an objective opinion. So I like to say openly now, I don't accept money or product from anybody for free. If somebody calls me up or contacts me to test their product, I will, but I pay for it. And if I feel the product is inferior, I probably won't do a review on it. If it's grossly inferior, then I probably will, because I would warn other people. But frequently, I test some things, some items I buy for my bike using my own money. And I don't like how they perform. And it's not that they're horrible, they just don't do everything I would expect them to do for the money I paid for them. So I don't bother talking about them. Most of the stuff I review it and I present videos on it because I'm pleased with the way the product performed. And that always to me was missing, now in recent years not so much. When I first bought my touring bikes, my first BMW bike several years ago, there was nothing on YouTube that was an objective, and that's why I did this channel. So right up front, there's no videos, there's no advertisements on my videos, as you can see down below. I don't accept sponsorship money, and I don't accept free product. And there just isn't any money in this for me to worry about. I have a daytime job that puts food on my table, and I don't worry too much about making money at my YouTube. The only reason I do this is purely out of fun, for interest, and hopefully to share some information or warnings or good advice, I hope. So that's out of the way. The second comment I've received, and I received a comment here or a question just a couple days ago, is the rear passenger seat of this motorcycle. As you know, currently I'm mounted on an R1200 RT, a 2016 model. So I traded in my K16 GT, and I went through that whole spiel on another video as why I changed bikes. They're both wonderful bikes. But I think the kind of riding I'm doing as I get older, on B roads, twisty roads, single driver, longer distances, this bike, the RT, is a better choice for me. If I was doing more straight line running, fast straight line running on highways, the GT would be a better bike for me. They both do twisties well, and they both do straight line well. I'm not arguing about that. But one does one thing better than the other. But on this particular bike, the RT, the 2016 RT, there's a few questions that pop up on several of the forums I belong to. And I haven't responded to those questions, but I did get 3, believe it or not, questions on my YouTube channel over the last 6 months. And the most recent one I said I would answer. I replied to that particular person saying I would answer it in the form of a video. And that is the fitment of the rear seat. Several people have posted or questioned that when they take the rear seat off, the passenger seat, or the pillion as they call it overseas, they take that seat off and they put it back on. Sometimes it doesn't go on right, and the seat actually becomes quite floppy. And they take the seat off, not exactly sure how it hooks in and what may have happened to their seat. I've had it happen to me twice, but not on this bike. I've had it happen on other bikes that I've borrowed or rented, the same generation, the last 2 or 3 years of the RT. And I'll show you exactly what can happen on the seat here that would cause it to become floppy. And sometimes you can fix it, sometimes you can't. So here under your passenger seat, you have these 2 thumb screws. So begin by just loosening those off. Now I've learned from experience to take these screws and just put them up somewhere, because as you tip this up, sometimes they go popping on the floor and go rolling away. Now when the seat comes up, in the front, 2 screws hold it down. In the back, there's 2 forks that work to hold it onto the frame of the motorcycle. Let me show you how those look. There you go. So what we have here, this here bumper supports your weight, okay? So as you press on the seat here, that supports your weight against the frame of the motorcycle. What keeps the seat from flipping back is this bumper here, okay? So these kind of act like a fork. Now what tends to happen is, when you place the seat on quickly, you forget to hook this here piece underneath the frame of the motorcycle. The result is, because you're usually standing on one side or the other, it's usually the far side that gets hooked and the close side to you that doesn't, just because we lose this kind of the perception. Additionally, if you have accessories underneath your seat, they tend to push up against this, preventing it from hooking underneath. Now, what happened to me was, this bumper here, this one right here, is actually a little bubble. It has a little nipple coming out from underneath it. This bubble, which pinches up on the bottom of a bracket, that can soften up under heat, can actually roll or actually fall out or break or rip off. Once that rips off, this bumper rips off, then this loses its sort of tight hold against the frame of the bike, and that can jiggle and vibrate. But what frequently happens is this gets placed on the top of the bracket as opposed to underneath it. So sitting on top, and if you sit on that, it will break this off. Then it will never hook up properly. Here is the bumper. The weight bumper, the big round one, sits up here, and the little fork one sits up a little inboard and right up underneath. So the 2 of them kind of pinch onto this metal frame right here that's bolted directly to the rear subframe of the motorcycle. Now, I can actually lock this in, just this side, and have this side up above the bracket. Watch this. And all it is a subtle thing. This just happens to be lifted closer to me. And it is frequently, you just grab this on a hot day, you hook it in like this, and now those screws at the front line up. That's floppy back here because only this side is hooked in. This side here is not hooked in. You screw it down, you get going, you thought, my goodness, that seat. It's almost level back here, but it's flopping around right here. That's why. What you got to do is pull it out and get underneath the bracket. And when it sits in there, nests in there properly, you're fine. Now the problem is, if it's a hot day and you sit on it, or you have your passenger sit on it, if that plastic gets warped as a result of that weight and the heat, or the rubber bumper does, you'll be fighting with it for the foreseeable future, because you'll change the shape of that subtly enough that it will not lock down properly. So take the time and lock it in. Now the last thing I'd like to talk about today is, as you may know, and you may have watched some of my videos, I make reference to the Iron Butt Association. I enjoy iron butt runs. I'm young enough now to do them where I'm alert enough, and I enjoy the folks I ride with. I ride with one particular rider who happens to be my brother, and another very good friend who also is on a BMW. And we enjoy those long distance rides, and we do them the long days of the year in the early summer. We have a lot of fun. You're a little sore when you're done, but I've never had that long-term soreness that I know some serious long distance riders sometimes get, particularly as they age. And you may suffer from the symptoms where you might ride your motorcycle for a long distance, for a long period of time. It may be a touring bike, it may be a cruiser, it may be a sport bike. And the pain basically works right deep into the bone of your butt. It's not so much on the surface, the skin from chafing. It's deep inside, and sometimes you get numbness or buzzing or funny feeling that runs down your leg into your calf even, which clearly is a nerve issue. What's happened is that big round muscle that makes your butt round is called the gluteus maximus, and I'm sure most people know that. But when you sit on a bike for a long period of time, your gluteus tends to relax. Underneath the gluteus are smaller, weaker muscles that tend to hold everything together and allow you to twist your leg around when you're walking. It allows certain movement. But those muscles are smaller, they're more numerous, but they're smaller and much weaker than that big round gluteus maximus. And they tend to easily become fatigued and strained, and they actually swell up and they become irritated. When they do swell up, they tend to rub up against the nerves alongside of them. Those nerves are running from your back down into your leg. When those nerves become irritated, you get a buzziness down the whole length of your leg. It might start in your back and move right down your leg. Now, I am so lucky I don't suffer from that. But there's a reason I don't suffer from that, because other folks my age, and I'm 47 years old, other folks my age who ride the same as I do suffer. Some of them do suffer from those butt and leg and back problems from long distance riding, to the point where they can't walk for a few hours after a ride. What I've found, and the difference that I've employed in my life and my riding regimen, is exercise. I'm a foodaholic, so I really have to watch what I eat, and I also have to exercise to keep the weight off. My exercise regime includes a day of leg exercises, and those could be squats, and they could be leg press machines, and they could be on the stair machine, or they could be on the treadmill of some sort, or elliptical machine. They could be leg extensions and those sorts of things. I have a whole routine I go through. Now, some people say, no, and I also don't want to become, I'm not by any means an exercise guru, but I want to tell you the exercises I've done have strengthened my butt. Now, the old squat routine where you put weights on your shoulders and you squat down and back up again, you do that repetitively, that will strengthen the front of your legs, so that whole quadricep region. It'll also strengthen, because you go down below 90 degrees at your knee, a little lower, it'll actually strengthen and build up the muscles in your butt. Building up those muscles and all those muscles underneath, those smaller muscles, will make them more resistant to that problem, that irritation that builds up on a long distance ride. Now, you don't have to do it with weights. You can just do high repetition at home with nothing on your shoulders, just practicing of maybe crossing your arms in front of them, going down and squatting down and keeping your back straight as opposed to curving it down as you go over. Additionally, some stretches can help. For me, it includes bending forward and touching the ground. And I usually don't stretch until after I warm up a little bit. I might do a Stairmaster for 4 or 5 minutes just to get the blood flowing, and then I stretch, because warm muscles for me tend to stretch easier. Now, fatigued muscles, when you stretch them, sometimes can tear, and that's based on your genetics. Some people are more prone to injuring their muscles when they are already fatigued, they're already worked out. So you stretch after a workout, you can actually cause a tear. And if, for me, when I start my workout, my muscles are so cold, I can't stretch because I can't make them stretch at all. I got to warm up a little bit and relax the muscle. Once I do that, just the first 5 or 10% of my workout, then I go stretch for a minute or two and go back, and I tend to get more out of my workouts as a result. So the exercise I would recommend, even if you don't go to the gym, is work on just squatting down low, keeping your back straight and going back up. Just 1 second down, 1 second up, 1 second down, 1 second up. How many times do you do it? Well, I would work on doing it a lot. If you're not using weights, work on improving your repetition. So you might work up to doing 100 or 200 or however many you think you can do in a night, and take a day off, do it on your next night. Take a day off, do it on your next night. Maybe do that 3 nights a week, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Doesn't take long. Might take a minute or two. And eventually you'll get through so you can do any number of them and you're not getting tired. Well, maybe grab a weight, maybe grab something heavy, and then do squats and holding it close to your chest. Now, with any kind of, and as I mentioned, I'm not an exercise person to give you advice on exercise, but any kind of exercise, you might want to make sure the old disclaimers of check with your healthcare professional to make sure you're safe enough to do that. Even you might be able to ride motorcycle, but may not be able to do the leg exercises. The other leg exercises I do besides those squats are what I would call deadlifts, keeping my back straight and then lifting up weight, standing up straight, bending over, lifting it up, keeping my back straight. So bending right at my butt straight forward, keeping my back straight. Now, some people can't do it because they have back problems, and that sort of motion can exacerbate those problems. But maybe you don't use any weight. You just practice touching your feet, standing up, touching your feet, standing up repetitively every night or every other night, like I was mentioning with the squatting. Just an idea. I've also practiced when I do my squats is to roll my knees in and out, not during the squat, but try doing 5 maybe with your knees, your toes pointed out a little bit, 5 with your toes pointed in just a little bit. Works different parts of the muscle. And that also sometimes will reduce any kind of knee ache you get on long distance riding. Just an idea. Anyway, you can give those a try because we are coming up to riding season. And if you happen to have, and this is one great machine for exercising, it's a Stairmaster that can do most of those, take care of most of those muscle building functions for you, just running several minutes on your Stairmaster at different difficulty levels. All said, exercise does help your motorcycling, and aside from the skin pressure of sitting on a seat for several hours, that will come and go. But that muscle sort of irritation that you can do, and you get into those kinds of issues, those require exercising, in my opinion, and it's worked for me to take care of it, prevent that stuff from happening. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful, and I hope the other issues will help with the seat and make you understand that I'm not in this for the money. And until next time, thanks.